Professor of Finance in ESCA École de Management, and I will be glad to moderate this webinar session. So Mr. Tamil Ghorfi, who was supposed to moderate this session, unfortunately had unforeseen conflicts, and he apologized for that, and he may join us later on. So before to get started, maybe a few words about ESCA École de Management. So based in Casablanca, ESCA École de Management's mission is to contribute to the development of emerging economy and its progress in globalization context. To this end, ESCA École de Management prepares entrepreneurial and socially responsible managers who are able to contribute to the performance of firms and their internationalization. So in this perspective, the school seeks also through intellectual contribution to foster innovative management practices that are specific to emerging countries. And one of those channels that helps to convey and to share our experiences and intellectual contribution, we have Family Business Share, which is shared by our colleague Badr Habba, and in which we tackle and raise subjects very challenging surrounding family business. And one of these subjects is the one that we are tackling today, is the place and role of female leaders in the family business within the context of MENA region. So to explore this, we have an amazing panel of women doing research, getting in touch, and even experiencing by themselves the challenges of being women within family businesses in leadership, and to whom I would like to extend my warm welcome. Thank you for investing your time. And let me just introduce them. Dora Jourde de Gironcourt. She is a marketing researcher and expert of family business communication. She is the co-author of 3 books surrounding family businesses issues. She is also working in brand management strategy with communication agencies in France and internationally. Thank you, Dora, for accepting our invitation.
Thank you, Amin. It's a pleasure.
Farida Al-Agami, she is social entrepreneur and lawyer. Farida has been the general manager of Tarawat Family Business Forum, which is the first knowledge source and networking hub for family-owned companies in MENA region since 2008. Thank you for accepting our invitation, Farida.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
We have also Fida Afyounis. She is an associate professor of human resource management at Orient School of Business, American University of Beirut, Lebanon, and founding partner of the Center for Inclusive Business and Leadership. Thank you, Fida, for your time.
Thank you, Amin. Very happy to be here.
Caroline Fattal. She is Lebanese businesswoman, and she is owner and the board member of Fattal Holding Lebanon. And she co-founded Stand for a Woman, a Lebanon-based NGO to help more female entrepreneurs enter the private sector and take on leadership positions. Thank you very much, ladies. So we will have approximately 1 hour for discussion. And then, of course, we will end around 6 p.m. Moroccan time, including the Q&A session with our audience. So before to get started, I would like just to mention that Dora co-authored recently a book with our colleague Tamil Ghorfi about family businesses, Les femmes au cœur des entreprises familiales. So if we translate, is the woman in the heart of family businesses. And maybe, Dora, it will be convenient just to give us an overview about the aim, some insights, findings about that book as a matter of laying the foundation of our discussion.
Sure, with pleasure. Yes, I will actually use most of the insights for the discussion, of course, speaking of Morocco. But yes, so we published this book on the 8th of March, which was a great date for this kind of topic. And so it is based on a thorough literature review, but also on 30 face-to-face interviews with female family members in Moroccan family businesses. So really the aim of the book was to put the spotlight on these female leaders for the first time. It hasn't been done before. And really to show that there is a new generation of women taking the reins of family businesses nowadays in Morocco. And they actually are quite successful in imposing their style of leadership. And so this book analyzes actually their type of leadership and what are the success drivers. And so, and also it is, the aim of the book was also to show that family businesses are good structures actually for women to grow professionally and to thrive, which is not very well known actually, but it's, yeah, this book actually allowed us to say that because we just found that family businesses are quite almost laboratories, you know, where you can see women thrive professionally. So that were the two aims, the two main aims of this book.
Okay, thank you, Dora. Thank you, Dora. So let's kick off the discussion by some highlights and some statistics. So recently it's 2019 Global Family Business Survey, which has been conducted by some researchers with the collaboration of KPMG Enterprises, and they did the survey with large scale, with a huge database of family business, more than 1,800 family business interviewed with respect to several questions, and among them, these questions, we have our central question about the female leader as in the family businesses. And they come up with very, appealing statistics. Let's just tell you some of them. So splitting those statistics per region, so we have Europe and Central Asia are the ones with the highest percentage of female CEOs, 43%, followed by Latin America and Caribbean, 25%, Asia and Pacific, 20%, and world regions with the lowest percentage of female CEOs are North America, 7%, this is very surprising, and the MENA region, 5%. And of course, this is very, very low. And even it's, we have something similar in the book written by Dora and Tamil Ghorfi about the introduction, because they try to explore the place of female leaders in the some family business companies listed in Casablanca. And still, this is very low, let's say, percentage. So I guess that this is due to challenges with the MENA, maybe with the cultures, etc. So what makes this region difficult for a woman to be a leader in family business? So in your opinions, who would like to start?
I'm happy to kick off, no problem.
Yeah, go ahead.
With pleasure. First of all, it's a great pleasure and an honor to be here. Thank you very much to Eska and your team. I would also like to congratulate Dora for the amazing, amazing work. We can never have enough research into the topic of in general female leadership, but specifically female leadership in family businesses. Perhaps just a little bit of context where my comments are going to be coming from. I have a great pleasure, by the way, of knowing Caroline Fatal for a very long time, so it's a great pleasure to also be here with you and of course to meet you, Fida. My background is of course, I'm a lawyer, but then I also run the Farawat Family Business Forum, which is a nonprofit private network of family businesses. But most importantly to this conversation, in 2016, we co-founded a platform called womeninfamilybusiness.org, which is also a nonprofit initiative that focuses on strengthening the voice of female leadership in family firms globally. So what was quite interesting to us starting out when, going to your question of challenges, is this idea of having the sense of, in our region, it's worse than in other regions. And, female leadership in our region is completely underestimated, whereas there is this kind of promised land, so-called, in other parts of the world. And when we started working on this theme, we very quickly realized that that is absolutely not the case. So whilst in our region, perhaps there are outward signals that are very clear and that are obstacles to female participation, and I'll just give you a quick idea of how I see the problem. We see that in other parts of the world, the problem might express itself differently, or the challenges might be differently visible, but they definitely also exist. So the way I see it is that there are kind of two spaces of challenges. The first space is I would say the internal space, so the family internal space, which has to do with the actual family culture. How do we grow up, education, the way we dialogue, the way we communicate within a family, and the family culture. And the second space that also I find very internal is the way we interact with our communities. What street do I grow up in? How do boys and girls interact when they play, when they're kids? How do we go to school? What do our teachers tell us about, creating that self-image of a woman growing up? It starts so very early of how the image of a woman starts building in her own mind. And then we have the second space, which is the more public space, which is the workplace, the business. So in the case of family businesses, is the family-owned enterprise or the family office, now that we have women going more into investment. Now, in that second space, the question is, do I manage to get through the door? That is the first negotiation you have to make. When can I set the first step into the business? And I have had the privilege of once being in a meeting where we convened women in one of the Middle Eastern countries. And for the first time, these women, if we counted, they owned 45% of the company. And it was the first time that they set foot into the company. So, to put your foot physically through the door is a first challenge. And the second challenge is to be accepted as a woman in the workplace, not just by your family, but also by your non-family employees. So I would say kind of the way I perceive the areas of challenge is kind of divided into those two. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Farida. Fida, do you share the same spaces, etc., as Farida, or do you have other comment on that?
I want to comment on Farida, and I want to go a step even, back and put things into their historical context. By the way, I do a lot of research on women's careers in various capacities, and as well through the Center of Inclusive Business and Leadership. So I am supposed to be an owner of a family business, but I am not. Because the grandfather of my mother created a family business that is still now, after 3 generations, very successful. But my grandmother, who is the daughter of the founder, was not given, any kind of stock in the business, because putting things, in the 1940s and 50s, it was only the male sons that had shares in the family business to preserve the name, the family name, because a woman would marry from a different family, and that will dilute the family business. So my grandmother, who is the daughter of the owner, didn't have any ownership, and she would. So of course my mother didn't, and I didn't. So this is the first thing. So access to family business is not always, taken for granted before, we get into leadership role. And in one of the research, that I've done about women in family businesses and women on boards, we noted something that we did with around 20 women in Lebanon from family businesses. We noted something very interesting. It's the demographics of the family leads to different timings in entering the family business. So if the owner of the family business has sons and daughters, we see that the daughters enter the family business at a much later stage because only the sons are prepared, and then it's like the woman who kicks the door with her foot, at a later stage and enters. While as men who only have daughters are prepared and enter earlier. And I think Caroline can add to what I'm saying. Caroline was one of my interviewees in the study, so I will let her build on that.
Okay, Caroline, go ahead.
Okay, so I want to give a historical perspective as well on my family business. It took the family more than 100 years to have a first woman from the family in the business, which was me. So, I mean, we had 3 generations before where women were either, like Fida was saying, in the generation of my grandfather, women didn't inherit. It's only the sons who inherited the shares in the business. In the generation of my father, it was, they bought back their sisters, most of them. So it was a buyback. And then, after 100 years, I'm the first one to just pop in the family business. As Fida says, I could have been the last one, but actually, unfortunately, due to the passing away of my father, who was the eldest son, I was the first one in my generation 4, to enter the business. So, and this is from my father's side, but from my mom's side, we are also they are also a family business in the wine sector, and women were not given any shares in the wine. And women were compensated in different owning shares in family business, or even, as Fida was saying, having leadership positions. It's because of patriarchal society. It's because of historical things. Maybe women were not considered, to be having roles in the business, although I must say, women, as they say, were the chief emotional officers. So it's the CEO, but not the CEO that you think. It's the emotional thing. The matriarchs also have very important roles in our family businesses, and they are the ones who glued the family. But now it's the time to move from the chief emotional officer to the chief executive officer and running the businesses.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Caroline. So, Dora, do you have? I mean, did you find out through the interviews that you have had in within the book? Did you get close or different challenges that maybe the Moroccan culture can impose to the female leaders than the other regions, for instance, Lebanon or Dubai, for instance?
Well, it seems that the challenges are more or less the same as just the one expressed, for Morocco. I would say that still, I mean, the history, we know that, women had for a long time has always worked informally in family businesses and had behind the scene roles, actually. And so, this is also true for Morocco, where actually men still have, the power, the capital, and all the network. So women need to rely on men, at least for the first times, when they enter the business, to succeed in their career in family businesses. So they need to rely on that. And it's a reality. Men have the power and the capital and everything. It's still today. And so when women succeed, actually, they have to go through a kind of legitimacy journey, a very long journey. First, to impose their individual legitimacy for themselves, just to be recognized, just for themselves. And then they have this internal legitimacy. They need to be recognized internally in the business, within the family members, within the employees, etc., within the business. And then you have the external legitimacy with the business partners. So they have to go through a very long journey. They know that they have to work much harder than their brothers, for example, to be legitimate and to impose themselves. And it's hard, yes. And I would also say that another challenge is actually, it's not a surprise, it's almost a cliche, but it's still a reality, that women in this part of the world, in Morocco, really need to choose their hats. I mean, they have different roles. They have the domestic roles, they have the professional roles, and it's actually enhanced in family busineses. And they are more recognized for their domestic role than their professional roles. And they did really to struggle to professionalize this, as Caroline was saying about this chief emotional officer role, which is an informal role. Historically, they really need to professionalize this role and to leverage it to business purposes. And so this is really a challenge. And and the COVID crisis has worsened actually, you know, this, because it has enhanced, of course, the domestic role that women need they need to bear the domestic chores and everything. And female leaders are no exception. I mean, in Morocco, we know that from HCP, which is the Haut Commissariat au Plan, we have an official figure saying that, you know, 95% of female leaders, whatever their socioeconomic backgrounds is, have to bear the domestic chores. So yeah, I mean, this is a reality, and maybe especially in Morocco. And I would say also that, so for the book, we interviewed successful female leaders who actually overcome these challenges, but also just women who didn't want to enter the family businesses because the challenges are too big. And for them, what were the reasons? It was the fear, you know, really the fear to disappoint and the fear to fail. And I think these are internal barriers also women sometimes, of course, are putting themselves. And this is very, very strong, especially in Morocco, especially in family businesses, you know, this fear to fail and to disappoint because the feeling of responsibility is too much, so that they just want to cope with that.
Okay, thank you, Dora. Well, it seems that we are living the same challenges. I mean, there is no difference between Morocco and Dubai and Lebanon, I guess, also for the other countries. But well, let's be optimistic because we know that, okay, we have only 5% of CEOs as female leaders in the Arab world and in the MENA, but still those 5%, they are bringing something, I mean, great added value. I mean, it seems even that female leaders are even suitable to run the family business than men. I mean, and this is supported by literature. My colleague Badr Habba did a wonderful job. He tried to link the financial performance to the woman leadership. And he concludes that family businesses run by female leaders lead to higher performance than the ones run by male, etc. So here we can talk about key success factors for those companies, family companies, due to the female leadership. So what makes the woman as leader in family business more effective within the family business? And do you share the same idea as literature, for instance? Who would like to start?
I think Fida should start because she's been wanting to speak for a while.
Okay, Dora.
Yeah, okay. No, I thought you were starting. Okay, no, that's fine. I mean, yeah, the success drivers. Again, from the book, we actually found 6 main success drivers, you know, for the female leaders, which are actually the 6 chapters of the book. For us, it's first, we talked about, you know, the mothers and the grandmothers who had informal roles, but I think these women are really important and can be mentors for the young generation of female leaders in family businesses. You know, and this is one actually key success factor, you know, the fact to rely on these women, because these women, even if they haven't worked formally in the business, know its history, know its up and downs, know how to manage emotions and everything. So it's very precious, I mean, for new female leaders. Another success factors is also to go to female networks and to have peer-to-peer, you know, like to go in peer-to-peer networks just to share ideas and just to share best practices between, you know, other female leaders who have the same problematics as you and everything. So yeah, this is one aspect. The other one is actually as I said before, to rely on the men of the family. I mean, you have to, we interviewed mostly second generation like daughters of founders, of male founders of Moroccan companies, and we saw that the relationship that the daughter is building with her father is actually key at the beginning of the her start in the business. This is generally it's a unique relationship made of trust, made of transparency and everything. And so it just, the father usually just puts the foot on the ladder, and it helps a lot for the girl to have this legitimacy journey, as I was telling before. And so it's really one of the key success driver. And I think the other one is also to be able to separate your different roles as a woman, domestic and professional roles. Most of the women we interviewed actually separate these roles quite very well. And they know how to leverage, their informal role into the business field, to manage the emotions, to be able to manage the egos inside the family business. It's an informal skill, but actually it's very useful for business purposes. So yeah, this is also a key success driver. And another one was also to consider the business, the family business, as a good place, to thrive professionally, because usually women share the same values, share the same long-term view, and have access to mentorship quite easily in a way, and have access to network and everything. So it can be a good place to grow professionally.
Okay. And what about the management style? Because we have the idea that women, they are more prudent in the decision-making process, and this can be compatible with the objective of family business, because finally the growth is the most important thing than the dividend by the end of the year. Do you think that, let's say, Caroline, you used to take each time and all the time decisions? Do you think that you are more prudent when taking a decision within the board, etc., and this is in line with the objective of the holding family business company?
Look, I think the study of Dr. Badr Haba says that actually women are much more risk aware, that they have a big awareness on risk-facing companies. And in a certain way, I would tend to agree. And I would not say risk averse, because in a lot of publications you see risk aversion. No, I think they are risk aware. And it's true that this is some things that one of the things that I used to bring to the board. Maybe sometimes some of my cousins or whatever were more bold in the ideas of entering countries or in new ventures, etc. And I was always thinking about what are the risks facing the company. And unfortunately, in our Middle East region, and especially in Lebanon, we live in such a volatile, uncertain environment that being risk aware, or at least trying to map what can happen, even though, as you can imagine, in Lebanon, you never are, short of new stories. But risk awareness is an important factor that I think in the study shows that women bring. Also, they mentioned about transformational leadership. Out of, and it could be also one of the things, although I know that some men also are leaders, transformational leaders who bring, who are combating also the old way of leadership, which is command and control, or, do what I say. But it's true that women can bring this. And as they mentioned in the study, it's also, helping a lot, as Dora was saying, to, soften all the egos in family businesses and make people, sit around the table and listen to each other, even in times of crisis. Another thing I have seen is that a lot of women I have met who are in the board of directors in their family businesses are really the champions of governance. And they really want this company to get structured, that the board is a real board, not just for signing papers once a year, that the General Assembly also is a regional assembly where information is shared, shareholders can express themselves. So I have seen a lot of women torch holders for governance as well. So this is a little bit what I have witnessed.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. Maybe Fida, do you have other comments, or maybe you think about other key factor and key success factors that leads women to be more appropriate to take decision when it comes to family business decisions?
Yes, thank you. I am not a big fan of, biological the essentialism, or, that women are better than men or men are better than women. I believe it's all about the journey and the preparation. So I want to go back to what Dora was mentioning about legitimacy. And this is something that came really up in my research as well. And, women in family businesses are not perceived as legitimate because, the employees believe she's here because she's the daughter of the owner. And I've seen, just to give an anecdote, I was doing an interview with the chairperson, and his name, let's say, is Mr. Munir. And then we were doing an interview with a board member, and let's say her name is Mrs. Afyouni, for example. And after the interview was over, we realized that this person, the woman, was the daughter of the chairperson, but she did not use her, maiden's name. She was using her husband's name, and most of people in the company didn't know that she was the daughter. Wow. That was the only way for her to gain legitimacy from the employees. So I think women who make it to the top in family businesses had to go through a very harsh journey. They toughened up, they developed their skills. Most of them, went outside to gain international experience before coming back to be accepted in the family business. So I think their journey has equipped them with the skills and the tools and, some wisdom that will perhaps lead to a better performance once they are there, because you have a lot of women at the top that are there because they are the sons and they are not worthy. But women who make it are really very worthy and had to work very hard and develop their skills. So that's my view on things.
Okay, thank you, Fida. Thank you. Farida, do you have any comments on these factors?
So many. I think it's an endless conversation, and it's a fascinating conversation. And thank you so much to the panelists for really highlighting so many different aspects. I want to just go back to a couple of things because I feel that they kind of go in the similar direction. The first one is I want to pick back up the conversation on the chief emotional officer. I feel that for women in family business, and for women in business in general, by the way, speaking about this topic, and I'm sure Fida is much more eloquent when we talk about this, but to me, it's always a minefield of judgment and stigma. So it's very difficult to kind of make statements about the situation that women face in these situations without, or in these contexts, without falling in the trap of kind of, even if you want to challenge the status quo, you kind of quote the same measures. So one thing that I wanted to mention with the CEO, the chief emotional officer, I was once in a situation where I was in a very traditional family business in the region, and I didn't know that there was a grandmother. It was very male dominated. I was very often, when I met with them, there were only women. And then I was invited to their home as a privilege, and I was invited to the family home. And suddenly I see this grandmother sitting in the middle of the living room. And clearly she was running the show. And I was like, oh, a chief emotional officer, so cute. Okay, like she, everybody loves her and she gathers everybody. And suddenly there's someone coming in, like clearly an employee coming in with a lot of books. And he puts them in front of the grandmother. And I was just wondering, like, they're like binders, office binders. Oh, that's very interesting. This lady was around 75, 80 years old. I was like, I don't know what's going on. This is very interesting. And she starts opening it and she starts going through it. So I asked my friend who's a member of this family, I'm like, may I know what's happening? He's like, yes. So my grandmother reviews all the expenses of the business. This is a multi-million-dollar business. She goes through the books and she will give her sons comments on how they run the business. So what I want to say with this is there is a danger of underestimating the traditional influence and the traditional roles that women have always played behind closed doors in the running of these businesses. So just because we don't always see them on the forefront, and just because they don't always have a business card, female influence in running these businesses has always been present. whether acknowledged or not acknowledged. So I think the only shift that we are seeing now is that we are shifting to a more visible space. We want women to be acknowledged for this role. Clearly, this woman was almost like a shadow CEO. She should have been acknowledged as such by society and by her family. So that was just the first little comment. The second comment, when we talk about what's the advantage of female leadership, I prefer to speak about the advantage of diverse leadership. I think for me, the secret of success, and I think that's very mature for us as women to say, because we don't claim that we are better, but we claim that we are equal, and in combination, we are the best. I think what we bring to the table is a capacity to lead from behind. We tend, and again, I don't like generalizing, but I would say that we tend to be slightly less self-centered leaders. I feel we are leaders that have a capacity to empathy and the capacity to kind of put team and collective interests ahead of our own. And I think that specifically in times of crisis can be of an extreme advantage. I'll stop here and Caroline, give you the opportunity to react if you have.
Okay, thank you, Farida. Thank you. While I see Mr. Tamil Ghorfi who join us, maybe we can ask him also some question. Maybe we will let him take a breath before asking him some questions. So maybe let's go to the last point of the discussion, and of course here we are going to talk about the perspective, because things are changing. We witness the same, approximately challenges for women as leader for business and family business around the world. We remain convinced that maybe that things will change in the MENA region. Maybe it's just a matter of time lag, etc. So because we are building new generation, and what do you think, what does the next generation of female leaders bring to family business? Is there anything different that this new generation will bring to the family business? Who would like to start?
I can start.
Yes.
Caroline.
No. Go ahead. I will do after.
What we saw from the book and the interview we conducted is that the new generation is maybe comes with a lot of self-confidence, and this is maybe one of the big difference from the former generation. These women have been trained, have been educated, have done studies abroad. They have had the chance to participate, from their youngest age to business sessions, to do internships in the business and everything, to know the employees very well. So when they have been educated in a very egalitarian way. So it depends, of course, on the family culture, but for the women we interviewed, this was the case, and this shows how much it is important. The family culture is also very important as a country culture, and the way they have been raised and educated is really key. And we see that women, new generation of women feel very confident to impose their own style of leadership. Okay, they need to rely on men for the first time, when they just put a foot in the business. But then they are very confident to take their own decisions and to impose their style of leadership. I remember one example. We interviewed Lamia Tazi. Lamia Tazi is the CEO of one of the main pharmaceutical Moroccan company, and she took over her father recently. And so she's a second generation. And she told us that, she had to face one big event just, at the beginning when she just took over. It was a strike with workers. And this strike was the best event that could ever happen to her, to impose her style of leadership, because she had to go on the ground. She had to talk to the workers. She had to, just to familiarize herself with, with the employees, and also to set new basis of management and of leadership. And for her, it was really a founding event. This was, and it came also at a good time, because it came just, a few months after she took over. But And thanks to this strike, actually, she imposed her style of leadership, and so yeah, I think these women, I mean, feel much more confident and in doing things differently, I would say.
Okay, thank you, Dora. Who would like to
I can
share with us your experience? Yeah, go ahead.
I can give you perspective. I think what's important is that young women today have more freedom. They can decide, at the minimum, they will be shareholders in their family businesses. Because today, I don't think, that women would settle for getting a land instead of a share, or for being put aside from their businesses. So at least I think they would be shareholders. And I'm sure that the next generation is really prepared to be informed shareholders, because this would be the minimum. After, of course, you can decide to step in the business, to have leadership roles or board roles. But I think getting prepared for being a shareholder is a minimum thing that I would really advise young women to do, because, getting in a general assembly, understanding the finances of your business, even if you are an entrepreneur on your own self, is important, that you still have an eye on this and what's going on. I think what our generation has prepared for the next one is that, I was the first one. There will be no more first ones. I was the first woman to be in the family business. I was the first woman to be on the board of the families. I'm so happy for them that now, for example, we are two, and that, they will not be anymore I was the youngest. All these things that put a lot of pressure on us and on me particularly is gone. This also, all the history of primogeniture, the first son, and I think all this is history. So at least young women will have the choice. As Dora is saying, they are much more prepared. And actually, I think the challenge will be for family businesses to attract them. I think it's the reverse. Because really, I can see my daughters, and I can tell you that most probably they want to be entrepreneurs. They have great business ideas. It's the opposite challenge that will happen. And will they really want to work in this family business that is old-fashioned, and that, for example, doesn't really understand the power of diversity, of inclusion, of blah blah. So I think we will, in the generation that's coming, Generation Z, they will have the opposite challenge, and family businesses have to become really much more inclusive to attract the young talent in the businesses. And so I would tell them, one thing I always say is, in family business, it's damn if you do and damn if you don't. Because if you do well, they say, oh, but she's the daughter of the owner. And if you do bad, oh, she's a spoiled brat. So whatever you do, no one is never satisfied. So at least do what you want. That's the important stuff. Do what makes you happy. So.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. Fida, do you have any comment on that?
Yes, thank you. I think what's different now with the new generation is different power dynamics, as what mentioned, and they are empowered. And I want to just, I use the concept of empowerment by Naila Kabir. That's really the capacity to participate in different aspects of life. And it also comes from the expectations. So today, the expectations we place on, young women are much higher. We kind of tell them you can do whatever you want. And as we were talking at the beginning, many women, from our generation did not go into family business by fear of failing, because they were socialized in a way that placed little expectations on them. So I think now they are, as parents and as their educators, they feel empowered, as the expectations placed on them are similar to the ones placed on men. And I think this feeling of empowerment is important, because once they join the business, they will also empower others. And I think that's something. And I feel even it's a generational issue, it's not just a gender issue, because all the new generation, whether male or female, they really believe in diversity and inclusion. They believe in social justice. So now, our generation, you would ask me, why would I have more women? I would tell you it's better for the performance. You make more money. So it's more of a managerial perspective. But now you talk to the new generation, they really believe in social justice. So they want to hire people with disability. They want to hire people from diverse backgrounds. They want to help their communities through their business. So I think it's a shift in generations as well, in addition to more empowerment of women that will lead to empowering others.
I think that's a very key point that I very much appreciate in all the female leaders that I have seen over the past decades emerge in family businesses. And it kind of, Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States, said something that kind of resonated with me. She said her mother told her, be the first and make sure you're not the last. And I think that really resonated with me, because I see a lot of these women that we work with and that we have in our communities making absolutely sure that they will not be the last. And even if it's with small things, small adjustments, speaking up. I think, for example, Caroline, for me, is a huge role model in the region. The way she expresses herself, the way she paves the way for all these young women to know that they have a choice and that they have the right to demand to have a choice. And I think just if we do that for the next generation, we will already have effectuated a huge change and a shift in perception for them going forward.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for those insights, are very fruitful. So maybe we can now end this discussion at this point, just try to interact with the participants. And of course, if other colleagues would like just to ask questions. So for the audience, you have Q&R queue, so you can ask question by writing your question, and then we can answer directly.
There are two questions I'm seeing in the Q&A, yeah.
Yeah, so the first one is from Sidani. Hello, I am PhD candidate at HEC Liège, specializing in philanthropy and family business. My empirical setting is Lebanon, which lies at the heart of Middle East. My question is twofold. First, how do the panelists perceive the general law of philanthropy in family firm? Second, do women push for philanthropic practices in their family firm more than men, especially in response to exogenous shocks? Thank you. So I guess this can be for, well, Fida, maybe?
I think Caroline will be better equipped to answer this.
I think, I'm not sure, as Fida would say, if it's a gendered thing, but it's true that, for example, when I've worked with a family business in Saudi, I realized that the space that they gave to women in the family business at that point in time, it was maybe 10 years ago, was in philanthropy. So in some family businesses, philanthropy is a way to enter women in a field where it's not managerial, but they can have an added value and they can have a contribution. This was a Saudi example. In our family business, it's as much, you know, my male cousins as myself, who have, you know, really have a role in the philanthropy and CSR, etc. But still, I have felt that within my family businesses, some of the topics I was passionate about, which are gender diversity and women's roles, were not the area of focus. They had a focus on education, on environment. And for me, you know, having a gender lens was very important. So that's why outside of the family business, I created my NGO called Stand for Women. So my answer to the question of Mr. Sidani would be that I haven't really, I don't know, maybe Farida has a view or Dora, but other than Fida, I haven't seen really a gendered perspective on this. And I saw really an involvement. Even now I'm trying to scan the family businesses, I know involvement from both gender in it. But what I can say is that in 10 years, I saw the importance of philanthropy, CSR, etc., increase dramatically in family businesses. So having an impact in the community is not anymore something that only multinationals do, or, you know, it's really something that family businesses have embraced. So this would be my answer.
Okay, thank you, Caroline.
I don't know, Dora, if you have any comments?
Yes, I mean, I agree. It reminds me, actually, I lived in South Africa for 5 years and worked there. It's not nothing to do with the MENA region, but actually philanthropy there for family businesses is huge, because and for male and female, I mean, it's not a question of gender, because, you know, they have this culture of giving back. You know, like you receive a lot as a business, but you give back to communities, and this is huge in South Africa, and I would say in South Sub-Saharan Africa. Here in the region, I mean, I couldn't say precisely, but I have this feeling that it's growing a lot, you know, globally for family businesses. I mean, it's and especially in times of crisis, you need to rely on communities and to give back, you know, this. So yeah, I would say it's a general trend.
I would agree, and it's just very briefly from my perspective. I don't think that there is a big difference in terms of the willingness to have philanthropic activities between men and women. What might be slightly different is the areas of focus. I think women might have different interests when it comes to philanthropy. And then I also see a huge difference between generations. So as we see kind of the senior generations are more into the kind of the typical charity, philanthropic activities, whereas the new generation, and I'm very excited about that development, both men and women are much more interested in solving the world's problems through, for example, things like impact investing or, you know, social business models, whereby they say it's more sustainable rather than us, you know, giving and giving and giving. We need to make sure that that number one, we change the problems, so we don't just try to fix them post fact. We actually change the root of the problems. And the second one is to make these solutions sustainable. And I think that's a very exciting evolution. I have a sense, and I mean, this is for maybe another discussion, I have a sense that because of the increased diversity in leadership, because of the changes in our overall environment, we see a conversion almost between philanthropy and business. And it's going to be a new type of entity, I think, that's going to come out of it in the next couple of decades.
Okay, thank you, Farida. Thank you. So a second question, this is more general question. What is the role of social and human capital to develop family business? I mean, well, if you have any idea to share with Selmi Najia, please go ahead.
Yeah, I can start on this. Today, increasingly, it depends on the type of family business, but mostly, the intangible assets are what's driving success. And these are social capital, human capital, among many others. And, I can give 2 examples of family businesses in the same industry. The first one where the sons were not very educated. They just finished high school. They started working even before finishing high school at the business. And they were kind of keeping the tradition and replicating what their father did. Their cousins, branched out and opened, their own. And then they sent their sons. They had various, sons. One went to LSE to study, business. Another one went to Switzerland to study, hospitality. Third one went to the US and studied something. So they strategically sent their sons to study different disciplines in different countries in order to come back with different set of skills and competencies that can help modernize the business. And looking today, those are doing much better than, the cousins from which they branched out. So I think human capital is very important, and it goes both ways. So you really need to develop your skills before joining a family business. I think that's important. And we see that women do so more than men. They go outside, gain some experience, and then join the business to gain legitimacy, while men don't have to do that. But also, when you work at your family business, you also develop your skills. And by, from my example, studying in different countries, this developed networks, relationships, so that, adds to the social capital. And it depends on the country. For example, in Lebanon, it's very important who you know in order to get your, things going. And if people, trust your business or your family, you'll see that this is going to be better for business. And, many other things, but I think I'll stop here.
Okay, thank you, Fida. So, Dora, if you would like interact with that question or give your point of view, but still it remains general. I mean, we don't have more accurate idea behind.
Yes.
Maybe more social aspects with respect to the family business. Huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say, I think I wanted to actually answer this question from the human capital aspects more. I think we saw that, you know, the human capital is key. I mean, to keep the, you know, the family harmony in family businesses, which is actually the engine for growth for family businesses, this family harmony. And also, I would say, you know, to hire, you know, the best talents is one of the challenges of family businesses, and how to mix these new talents to with the family members. So to really build a human capital very you know, precious for the growth of the family business. So yeah, I mean, the role of human capital is central, but yeah, and the challenges are, you know, are very big. So hire the right, you know, experts and talents from the outside, and usually women, actually, to come back to our subject, actually are, we often say that women are good to hire external experts, which, you know, in family businesses is not so common. And also, you know, to professionalize, you know, the human resources practices in family businesses, to have a, you know, a strong human capital to grow. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dora. So third question from Bushra Slimali. Hello, what do you think about the work-life balance that society is incumbent on women? Does family business give women more freedom, or no, or not? Well, also here a question, maybe, I don't know if you would like to answer. Yeah, go ahead.
I can give a perspective.
Yeah.
I always say that for me, the work-life balance is a myth. It's a lie, because I think for men and women, by the way, it's a lie, because it pretends that at some stage you're going to have a kind of smooth lake like that. Everything is going to be settled, the work, the life, as if also your work is not in your life. So this concept for me is not helping women, neither men. And for me, I know I witnessed that some days I give priority to work, some other days I give priority to my family and my home, etc. And it has always been with a big sense of guilt, either because I was short there or short the way. So I don't want to pretend that it's easy, because, you know, you think that one day you will reach a stage where everything will be smooth and running. No. And does family business give you more freedom? Yes, maybe, okay, because you're supposed to be the boss and, you know, be able to manage your own time. But at the same time, I always felt a big sense of responsibility, that if I take extra days, what about, you know, the employees, and that I have to be the role model, and I have to be, you know, really not taking advantage of my situation. So yes and no. There is no easy answer to that.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so well, if you would like to I mean, to add any comment, do not hesitate. So we don't have any more questions, huh?
I will just add a little comment to this, because I find this a fascinating topic. And in a way, you know, is it easier for women to be in family business or not? To me, it's this kind of strange situation where two opposing things can exist at the same time. I have a feeling that on the one hand, what you just mentioned, Caroline, is something that I've observed. And of course, my experience is anecdotal, so I'm not a researcher in that sense, but I've spoken to a lot of people going through these situations. Guilt is the biggest enemy. There is guilt versus your own family, your spouse, your children. Then there is guilt towards the family business. Am I doing the right thing? Am I doing enough? Am I not doing the right, you know, am I not being in the right position? Will I ever achieve the right position? then guilt towards other things, other community members, your family members. So I feel guilt for women in family business, and not just for women, it affects men as well. It's almost like an illness. It is really something that is very deeply ingrained. And to be honest, to me, it's a fairly serious psychological pattern that a lot of women need to work on very consciously in order to free themselves from it and move forward in the best interest of their work and their lives. On the other hand, so yes, absolutely. I also see, like Caroline, that there are opportunities that present themselves in the family business that perhaps might not exist outside. And very often I see that they present themselves when the cultural context of the country in which the family business is extremely hostile to women in the workplace. So let's, any country that has literally almost like physical barriers, for example, to women, for women to move from A to B freely, right? The fact that you can go to your own family business where you are, where you have a place where the leadership protects you and supports you, makes it a very different experience. And I've had those sentiments from women from Sudan, for example, from women, even from Egypt, from Yemen, in, certain countries where really the physicality of going to work itself is already a challenge. So I think, so it has advantages. Once you've made it into the family business, then it can become a challenge at the same time. So yeah, this is just another perspective.
Yeah, if I can build on what Farida is saying, is that, one of the learning of the book is to say that in Morocco, actually, family businesses are good structure for women to thrive. Why? Because the social barriers and the external barriers are very tough, as you said, and family businesses are a place of freedom for most of them, because they share the same value, they share, the history, there is this sentiment of trust and confidence that maybe you don't have in any other places. So yeah.
In a way, it's interesting. It almost says more about the context that we live in than the family business itself. So in a way, it's kind of a sad advantage if that's the reason why the family business is better.
Exactly.
Okay.
If I may add, I just want to add some, from my research, some strategies that women, seem to adapt to achieve work-life balance, although I agree with Caroline that it's kind of a myth, and I will explain. I think the way, the moment I came at peace with the work-life balance for myself personally is when I realized that I need to look at work-life balance through a temporal dimension. So it's not that like every day I need to see my kids and work and go to the gym and see my friends. It's not possible. But if you stretch this over, it depends on your position and your job. Some people, you stretch it over a week and you can achieve balance within a week. Others, you stretch it within a month. Others stretch it within a year. And I've seen women who stretch it through 30 years. And I'll give you an example, especially when we're talking about very conservative societies where there are, high expectations placed on women to marry, to get kids, especially, male kids and etc. I see that, they kind of fulfill their, responsibilities. They marry early, they have kids. Once their kids go to school, they go back to university with them if they didn't have the time to finish their studies. And then once their kids are, adults, they go and enter the workforce. So for these women, it took them 30 years to kind of dedicate the first 30 years to their kids and the remaining 30 kids to their careers. For me, for example, it takes a year. Throughout a year, I'll be, I'll be having some balance because I'll be able to do many things. Before it used to be a month, but now, with increasing responsibilities. So I think if you just try to adjust the time through which you look at balance, then you will be happy because you will find the right time that will allow you to have a sense that you're having balance.
Okay, thank you very much. So we don't have any more questions. So it's very, it was very fruitful. It seems that we have the same challenges, whether it's in the east or west of MENA regions. And we have also I mean, we can dream. We have to be optimistic because things are moving, and we are changing mind about the female leaders. I mean, it can be in family business or in any corporate form of corporation. So we remain, let's say, convinced that things will change with the new generation. So I would like just to, maybe, I don't know if Tamil Ghorfi is hearing us, maybe he can intervene. Mr. Ghorfi?
Yes.
Okay, I mean, if you would like to add anything or conclusion.
Okay, I don't know if you hear me well.
Yes, yes, we are hearing you.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I would want to apologize not to be able to join and to be part of this very interesting conversation from the beginning. But I would want, first of all, to thank all the panelists for the very interesting and deep insights they shared with us. I would want to maybe share some very simple ideas. I think that we have real challenges at the macro level in the Arab world or in the MENA region. The challenges we have in common are about how to find solutions. I'm not talking about some countries in the Gulf, Farida, but talking more largely about the whole region. We need to find solutions to create more jobs for youth in the region. And we will be considered as silly people if we don't mobilize all the energies, all the capabilities, all the resources we have in the region, and particularly inviting women to play the role they have to play in the society. Mm-hmm. And for me, family businesses is the best laboratory for the society as a whole, giving the women the opportunity to have personal development, professional fulfillment, and be able to impact on society and create wealth and create more opportunities for people in the region, and in a way strengthening the economic side and then the social side of the countries. To do that, we need to put light as possible as we can do on role models and examples. And for that, I just invite all the colleagues in that panel to maybe work together to create a kind of network of women in family businesses in the Arab world. If we have a network of women that can share in Arabic, in English, in French, in any other language, their experiences and how they went through all the obstacles they maybe met in their experiences and on their path, we will have good examples for so many young ladies that are well educated in the region, but they do not move forward for entrepreneurship or to get the leadership in the family business, even if their family business can be small and they have the ability to scale it up and to make it grow. So we need to have a kind of network in which we can have academia, but in which we need to have leading Arab women in family businesses that can share their thoughts, their experiences, and so on and so on. We already settled a consortium dedicated to research in the Arab world with colleagues from AUB, from Catholic in Lebanon, and from Ajman University in the Emirates, from American University in Cairo, in Egypt, and ESCA, all together to work and share research. So I think we were ready to start that before the COVID situation and sanitary situation went worse. But now I think this experience bringing around the table, even if it's virtual, panelists from the whole region. I think this is a first step, but we shouldn't be on some content that can be useful and accurate for the region, and then bring that to companies and bring that to family owners and family business, and help even this entrepreneurs, founders of that groups and maybe mid-sized companies, to think that their daughters, maybe their sisters, maybe their wives could be able to bring some other solutions and growth on that. I know, Farida, thank you for sharing the link. I know that you have that, but we have to promote it all together. We have to work on it all together. We should maybe bring what we can bring, each of us from his seat and from his perspective, but we have to bring something that we can build together. The last thing I want to mention is that this kind of conversation is very interesting, and I'm sure we are going to go back to our offices and our activities all with some new ideas. So we have to schedule again a number of experiences like this, in which we can have academia, NGOs, and also women from family businesses, and we can maybe topics just like philanthropy, that the topic, and how do women act in philanthropy. We maybe can have succession plan issues and succession plan experiences, bring in around, so some of them can be considered as a and the last thing is again
okay, Mr. Ghorfi, we can there is connection problem, so we cannot hear you anymore. But anyway, if I can just summarize the idea of, still a problem, Mr. Ghorfi, huh? Hello? Okay, so it seems that we have, Mr. Ghorfi has a problem of connection. Anyway, the idea is very simple, is just to promote the collaboration on several aspects, education and research. And of course, things, of course, are changing, and we have to push them. And of course, the research and the education is a leverage to change mindsets in our region, for which we have several challenges. So I would like to thank you, ladies, for your participation. As I told you in the beginning, I didn't have any idea, but with your help, really, it's very fruitful discussion, and I would like to thank you very much for that. I would like to thank also the participants, and I would like to tell them that we will keep them posted about all events hosted by ESCA on our website, so keep track on our website, internet. So I hope you enjoyed this web seminar, and of course, we'll be happy to do it again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye, ladies. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Merci, Amine. Au revoir.
Bye, brother.
Bye.